This is code.org, and this is instates.java. Write a method getMax to find and return the largest value in the data array. Okay, so let's head over to states.java. We do have an array. It's named data. So we need to write a method getMax to find and return the largest value in the data array. Let's see if they provided us. Yes. So we have the method signature. That's just a fancy way of saying the access modifier, the return type, and the name of the method. We have the method signature, and here is where we need to add some code. So if we need to get the maximum, obviously we're going to want to loop through the data to do this. So I'm going to use a for loop. We should be familiar with those. Now we have two options. One is a traditional for int I, or index is how we've been doing this, equals 0. Index would be less than the length of our array, which the array's name was data, so data.length. And then we would do index equals index plus 1, which just means take index up by 1 each time, okay? So this is one way to do a for loop. And then how would I access each data? Each variable would be, or each index of the array, in data.index, whatever I needed to do with that. Okay, that is a traditional for loop. I always want to highlight that because it's an essential skill to know, guys. So, essential skill. All right, that being said, since I know I need to go through the whole array, I'm going to go ahead and do int, and then I'm going to do num, because we're in other numbers, and then I'm going to say data, because that's the name of the array. Okay, and now, what are we looking for? The max. So actually, I should probably have a variable here as well, and I'll just name this max. And, interesting. So I have a few issues with this. I could assign max to the first value of the array. However, if the array is empty, this would cause an error. So we could tolerate that, or I could prevent it with an if statement. Okay. You could also, so I'm going to assume for now data is not empty, and I'm going to say max is going to be equal to the first point of this array. That way we know that we have a value assigned to this. We could also make it equal to 0, but we're not guaranteed here that the population, it's going to be it's going to be greater than a -1. The reason I don't like that, though, is that if for some reason an extraneous data was entered, we would still want to get the max even if it was all negative. I'm sticking with this. We could do something even like int max, and then if we want to prevent an error, if data.length is greater than 0, then we could do this. All right, I'm overthinking this, but I could do it like that as well. I'm sticking with how it looks here. So if you could also do if data, and then you could do -1,000 if you trust that. So if data is, yep. And then what I need to do is I need to know which is bigger. So I'll say if num, or if max is less than num, which would be the current number as we loop through each index of the array, well then what I want to do, I want to make max equal to num, and we'll keep going. And then finally, are we going to return 0? Certainly not. We would need to return max. It does look like if they have, it would be safe to do a negative or something like that here. It's just a problem if they enter bad data. All right, I'm sticking with this. So that being said, we're also going to do minimum. And so for get minimum, same idea, smallest value. So int min is equal to, I'm sticking with my approach up there. I can, now I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to stick with it. You could do a -1,000, technically it'd be fine. All right, I'll do the other type of for loop here just to show you. For int I is equal to 0, or index. Index must be less than the length of the array, data.length, index plus plus. Great. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to say if min is greater than data index. Bam. And the cool thing about this, I could start it at 1 since how I've organized this, but that could get confusing for people, so I'll do it like this. If min is greater than that, well, min we would need equal to data index. And keep in mind, index is going to start at 0. What does this mean? We're adding 1 to index each time, and we'll loop through the data. So 2 ways of doing it. This way would also work down here just as well. Return min, but we're being fancy. All right, print the results of get min. So just to run through what's about to happen here, guys, what are we doing? Well, here, I'll go ahead and print it, and then I'm going to walk through the code. We have an object mice. Nope. We need file reader. Yeah, my states. Yep, is what we need. Dot get max. Now, let's see if this works. Now, this is a return statement, so it's not going to print anything. So I could handle that a few ways. I might just do this and then say system dot out dot print. I'll do ln for a new line. I'll write the word max here just to keep it tidy. And max. Bam. And here's the maximum value. Now, what is happening? Well, we declare this object file reader, and it is an instance of the file reader class, which is this. We pass it the name of the text file, state names, and that'll go ahead and instantiates an object that would have access to the file and then the scanner that we are using to scan through and read the file. So great, now we have access to that file. We then get a string of all the states' names, an array of all the states' names using file reader. We tell it the array is 50 long, and it loops through for us. Get string data, so that's down here. And it loops through saying, okay, there's 50 data points, and grabs all that stuff for us. We then get file reader, and we change the file to the point at the populate text file, and then we use the get int and get all of the numbers from the population file. And now with those two arrays, we create a state object, myStates. We use the states constructor and pass it the state names and the state populations. So here's the constructor, array of state names and array of data. State names then, since these have the same name, this references the local variable, this one, the close one, and we use this to say this class. So state names up here, the class-wide instance variable, that is now assigned to whatever we passed it here, and the same goes for data. Now at first run through, we're passing it population for the data. We're actually sticking with that. Once we have that set up, we say mystates.getMax. What does that run? It runs the function that, or the method that we just created. We're looping through all of the data and returning the maximum value. And now we need getMem. I'll print this a little bit differently. I'll do it inline just to show you different ways to do things. Man. Both of these ways of printing, completely valid. Both of these loops, completely valid. Let's check it out. Cool. Onward.